there was another time where I'd had a vortex in my house, and my grandkids at this time would not sleep in that room, and they kept saying, Grandma, there are monsters that keep coming out of the wall. Now, I couldn't see it at that time, but 100% for sure later on, one of my friends was also in the paranormal field. She came in and she said, oh yeah, she goes, it's right there. And once she was able to identify it, I was able to see it more clearly when I honed in on it. And it looked like one of those infinity mirrors that went back through space. And so that was an opening, so we had to close that. You know, it's really funny when we have to really look at our belief systems around the paranormal. But, you know, some people say you make this stuff up. You know, it might come from your unconscious mind. I can pretty much tell you no.
Hello, my dear friends. I'm Donald Lee, and this is Expressing and Revealing Your Truth with Donald Lee. It's a podcast in which I help you understand the truth about who you really are and how you can express and reveal that truth in the world. To do that, I interview people who have had transformational spiritual experiences, the type of experiences that many of us wish we had but never do. Yet by learning from my guests' experiences and the wisdom they've gained from those experiences, all of us can glimpse a bigger vision of who we really are and how we can live our lives more fully, more peacefully, more lovingly. Be sure to download my free mini ebook containing 5 of the 50 parables from my popular book, The Band Director's Lessons About Life. These little parables are short, easy to read, inspiring, and also help you to understand more about who you really are. There's a link in the show notes below to get your free ebook. In this episode, I interview Jorianne, the coffee psychic. Jorianne is a nationally known Chicago psychic who has pioneered a new way of predicting the future by looking into a steaming cup of coffee. She got hit on the head at age 7, which caused a brain injury and stimulated her psychic abilities. She lived in a haunted house. She is now a certified hypnotherapist, a Rieki Master, a trance channeler, and a psychic. Jorianne has a weekly radio show on BlogTalkRadio called Your Psychic Connection. Let's dive into this fascinating conversation with Jorianne, the coffee psychic. Hello, my dear friends. We're here with a wonderful guest, a lady by the name of Jorianne, the coffee psychic. And exactly what that means will become known to you as we proceed. So welcome, Jorianne. It's a delight to have you with us now that we've overcome the initial technical difficulties.
Yes. Always fun. I always look at that as, was that meant to be, or why is that happening right now? Always a learning curve, Donald. So.
Oh, that's right. Now, especially with constantly changing technology, for those of us who are, shall we say, in the latter half of life. Let's put it that way, gently, huh?
I love the latter half. That is correct.
Now, Jorianne and I met about a week ago or so.
Yes.
At the Podfest, I can't even talk.
Yes.
Podfest, which is a podcasting conference in Orlando, Florida.
Yes.
About a week ago, we met and talked, and I was looking for people who had transformational spiritual experiences, of course, and Jorianne definitely has. So we're going to jump in. And Jorianne, please tell us about your spiritual journey, which is not just one experience. It's an event-filled spiritual life.
It actually has been, Donald. I consider myself very blessed. I wanted to be a nun when I was younger. So as many of us that are out here in the spiritual field, I don't think a lot of people even recognize what's going on when they're suddenly seeing things out of the corner of their eye, or they're hearing somebody talk to them, and they're going like, where's that coming from? And so for me, I had started out like I've started writing my books and I don't have them published quite yet. But one of the first things I started writing about was when I was about 2 years old, 2.5 years old. I had gotten my doll from Santa Claus, my little Susie doll. And when I was playing with Susie, I'd suddenly hear these voices. They were about three. They sounded very feminine, and they'd be repeating these words. You're special. You're special. And when I heard that, I would just turn around and look and trying to see, what I was hearing. And of course, no one was there. I was in the playroom by myself. And one of the things that I remember from being very young is that my grandmother had this amazing rocking chair, and the fabric was very bubbly. So it was a very thick, bubbly chair. And I used to sit in her chair and I would rock. But I wasn't looking, how can I say, it wasn't looking at the wall. I wasn't looking at the floor. I wasn't looking at the dog. I was literally looking into space. I was looking at what could I see in between the particles in the air. And then if the sunlight came in, then, you see the dust dancing around. But I did that all the time as a child, and it it didn't come to me till later that was probably some of my training, my earlier training, because that's what I do now. When I'm reading people, I'm called the coffee psychic because I used to drink 30 to 40 cups of coffee a day. And I mean, seriously now. And of course that happened. You and I had been speaking at the conference, and I had said that part of my gift came from when a little boy hit me in the head with a bat. And this was a little guy that I had a crush on. He was my neighbor. And he goes, hey, Joe, I want to show you something in the backyard. And I'm like, I was getting a little excited, and I'm like, okay. So I went to the backyard, and it was lined up with all the school kids, right? And I don't know what it was for him, but even as a human being, we do silly things. And we do worse things when we're kids, okay? So he had from what I recall, he had a bat in his hands. And then I'm looking at him, looking at all these kids going like, what do you want to show me? And suddenly I got a crack to the side of my head. So I ended up having a brain concussion. After that, I had grand mal seizure disorder. And I had that for years and years. And they say that a lot of people, and I tell people, don't try this at home. Okay. Don't do this at home. But a lot of psychics, a lot of people have also, paranormal people have also reported having brain injuries. So, and it's not to say that you cannot develop your psychic abilities without having a brain injury of some sort. Please don't think that. For all of you guys that are out there in the listening audience and the viewing audience today, we're all born psychic. We're all born spiritual. Now, our early upbringing has a lot to do with how we embrace our spiritual gifts. So, for me, because I had the epilepsy and they had me on a lot of sedatives so my brain could heal, we'd get coffee from my mom and dad in the morning. And then suddenly I started sipping it. And it's like, oh, I'm waking up a little bit here. And from the medication they had me on. So I ended up, I don't know how it happened, Donald. I just ended up starting drinking 30. I got up to 30 to 40 cups of coffee a day. And I just didn't even know what water was. It was like, why would I drink water when I love caffeine so much? So,
Wow. How,
somebody else said that
didn't
somebody
you get,
else,
I mean, I find Jorianne, you know what? I try to limit myself to 1 cup a day. Sometimes I have
yeah.
two or whatever. But if I have 3 or 4 cups of coffee in a day, don't you get the shakes or anything with 30 or 40 cups of coffee?
Well, I don't drink. Well, I can't say that don't drink that much anymore, but my doctor told me I had to switch over to decaf, but I still drink diet Pepsi or Diet Coke because I do. Okay. And but it is just something that became a habit. So now here's where the things really took a turn. and I'll go to the coffee in just a second here. So I was raised in a haunted house. So that was kind of cool in and of itself. So we got to see ghosts. We got to see, have the radio experience where the radio turns on and off by itself. It turns on loud. It's like, oh my God, who did that? And it's like no one's standing by the radio. So that was part of our haunted house experience. I literally, oh my God, this was so cool. So, Donald, when they say they're showing you videos where the walls are breathing in and out, you know that experience? You've seen that on TV, correct?
I don't think so. I
Are
haven't
you
really
kidding
watched
me?
television for over 30 years, so
Oh
I'm
my,
not sure.
right on. Good for you. Well, if you've ever heard of it, I can tell you that my sister and I were upstairs in our rooms. We had more of a dorm room set up. And suddenly, over my sister's bedroom window, I'm going like this: Sue, 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 look at that. And outside of her bedroom window, it really looked like this little, like this ghostly figure, floating in front of the window. And I'm like, oh my God, what is that? Now we were teenagers, and I'm like, what is that? And I'm pointing to it. And she was like, oh my God, that's when her window started, like it was breathing in and out. It was like, it lost its solidity and started moving. I'm telling you, talk about who was going to beat the other person down the stairs to tell our mom and dad. It was like we were tripping over each other. This was a second floor bedroom. I'm like, holy mackerel. That was awesome. So having that kind of background in the first place, it truly was a little scary. It's like, okay, what are these things? What's happening? But then my mom and dad also taught us that the body is only a carrying case for the soul. So we were taught that just growing up. And actually, honestly, my uncle was an exorcist also. And I'm also an exorcist too. I'm a Reiki Master healer. Um, I've been doing that practice for over, gosh, 40 years now, at least. So learning about the spiritual realms, the healing of the human body, how the body, mind, and soul, spirit work together on this planet. Why are we here? Is it karma? Why are we here? Right.
Right.
And so we have lessons to learn, stuff like that. But when I started reading the coffee, I think that's really when things started to open up for me more. I had,
And how old were you when you started to read the coffee instead of just drink all those cups?
well, and that's a good question, seriously now, because I had gotten married, raised my kids, and I shouldn't say I had two marriages. Last one doesn't count. And, but I had two marriages where I had children. And then the second marriage wasn't working out, unfortunately, because we still loved each other very much. But um, it really made an opening for me to start doing the paranormal investigation. And quite honestly, remember that I wanted to be a nun when I was younger. So part of this topic, I look at all the other people that are on the same journey that I'm on, and a lot of this stuff was taboo. I mean, I'm Catholic, and I had a week after my husband left the house, I had my first psychic class. Now, how unusual is that? First off, 1 week after he's gone, somebody's invited me to a class. And then they said, you want to get a reading from this lady from England who was in teaching classes. And I was like, you know what? If God wants me to know something, he's going to tell me himself. I'm not going to fiddle around with that stuff. And so then suddenly it hit me. It's like, no, I'm supposed to get a reading from this lady. And when I inquired about it, because my friend was supposed to set it up and he didn't, when I inquired about it, the lady said, we're all booked up. I said, Judy, I'm 100% sure I'm supposed to get this reading. So if anyone cancels, please call me. She did. She said, can you get here in an hour? And I said, yes, I can. I had no idea what I was walking into. And it was like, oh my God, my very first psychic reading. So in which the lady said, you're going to really how did she say it? Surprise a lot of people. And I was like, okay, that sounds like fun.
Including yourself.
including, yeah, Donald every day is still a surprise to me. I'll be really honest with you. Even as of Sunday night, you guys might call me crazy. That's okay. I'm used to it. Hey, so my toilet seat was left up. Now, I'm just going to let you know, I'm not involved in a relationship. I've lived in other haunted houses before. My toilet seat, there's no way that should have been left up because I believe in feng shui. You put your toilet seat down every time you use it because it keeps the money in your house. Just so y'all want to know. So when that toilet seat was left up, I was going like this. Okay, God, what's going on here? Maybe it's a future thing that's going to happen. I don't know. But I'm always on the lookout for other dead people that might be, in my home or coming to visit and stuff.
Just wandering around your house, right? The dead people that just wandered in off the street,
Using the
kind of
potty.
kind of like a wino or something, right? These
I'm
dead
like,
winos
I'm like,
wandering in,
oh my God,
looking for a warm place to spend the night.
how we could get into those stories too. I'm telling you, very fun. I had well, before I tell you the coffee thing, because you're saying that, I'm going to tell you this. So I saw a dead man in front of my bed. And no matter how many, he kept pacing and pacing and pacing. And it was like, no matter how many times I said, sir, I can't hear your name. Can you please just come and visit me in my sleep and tell me what you want? So in the middle of the night, I'm starting to wake up. Here's this guy laying next to me in bed, and he's doing this thing like, hubba hubba. And I'm going like, oh, dude, I so did not mean that. You need to get your little fanny out of my bed. Thank you very much. And I tell people, there's a saying, if you're not here to do God's work, you must leave now. But so that's for anyone that might be of a negative nature. This guy was probably just floating around. I don't know if he was astral projecting. I don't know if he was a guy that just died and, spotted me, because they say there's a lot of psychics that have a lot of light around them. So somebody that's out in the astral planes could come and visit you, that sort of thing. That's what a lot of us encounter. So, but getting back to the coffee, I think I was in my 30s, and my sister-in-law's cousin, who is Hispanic, my sister-in-law's Hispanic, she was very psychic. And we got together one day to discuss how she, and in the Hispanic culture, that they divine psychic information. And I said, well, let me show you what I know. And so I was sharing her, the little bit of information that I knew. And then I said, could you share with me how you read things? And she said, well, first off, we take a lemon, we cut it in half, put it on a frying pan, and then we watch it smoke. Whatever we see in the smoke, that's how we tell the future, number one. Then she said, and here's another one. She said, we actually take a black cup of coffee, we pour cream into it, and whatever images, here you go, guys. Here's the coffee cup, right? Here it is. And she said, we take that, we pour it in there, the cream in there, and then we get images. And and this was probably my gift, Donald, for, 30 to 40 years of drinking coffee, when I was shown this, it had to be in my 30s, I literally started playing with my coffee every time I did it. And I would do it in restaurants, and people would come up to me and they'd say, Jorianne, we know what you're doing. Would you please come over and read us at the table? And,
You mean strangers, people who didn't know you?
oh, they could positively 100%. They knew that if somebody was looking in a cup of coffee, which I was doing all the time, that there had to be something going on. I was having waitresses bringing messages over to my table saying, this message is from the people at table number 9. They'd like to talk to you. So early on, I would read people at restaurants. At the Oasis. We've got Oasises out here in Illinois. I'm born and raised in Chicago. And so yeah, they knew. And the more I did it, the more I got really good at it. And I could even, it was even early on, I would see like a cast. Now, this was funny. This was one of the restaurant readings. I said, I saw a cast. And I said, ma'am, did you like break your break your ankle or did you hurt yourself? I see a cast and it looked like a foot. And she said, no, no. And I said, man, I said, that image is not going away in the coffee. I said, it's normally past, present, and future information that I get. And has this happened in the past? She goes, no. And her friend finally like elbowed her and she goes, show her. And so she lifted up her sleeve and her whole elbow was in a cast. She had broken this part of her body, and that was what was in the cast, but she had it covered up. So it was showing up in the coffee. And I also learned that if I didn't give information, that my spirit guides and angels would completely stop giving me the information. So if I saw a skull, I was reading one of my friends from college, and I saw a skull, and I said, yeah, I'm not saying that. And then another skull, I'd pour more cream in there, and another skull came up, and I was like, yeah, nope, you can't get me to say that. And so after about 7 or 8 skulls, Donald, I finally looked at my friend Paul and I said, look, Paul, I said, I'm seeing about 7 or 8 skulls. Now, honestly, that means death. And he goes, Jorianne, the last 3 months, I've had like 7 or 8 of my friends just die. And I'm like, thank you. So once I voiced it, so my obligation is to be a psychic reporter for people. And if the spirits show me something, I don't care if it's in thin air, which, again, my early training, if I look into thin air and I see a picture, one time, one of my friends, I walked up to my driveway, I saw all this radiator fluid right underneath her car, and I was going like, oh my God, I've got to go in and tell her. And then I looked again and it disappeared. And I was going like, oh, it's interesting. So I went in and told her, I said, Patty, I'd go get your radiator fluid checked like when you leave my house. She did. And the mechanic said, how could you possibly know that your hose was swollen this big, getting ready to burst? So I teach people, please, please, please trust what you're hearing, trust what you're seeing, because, we live in this physical world, but there's so much more to our
Right.
physical, mental, spiritual world here that if you allow it to come in and if you embrace this, you also be able to grow spiritually and in a paranormal way and really be very entertained by the dead people that could possibly show up in your bed, you know?
We're all scared of that, right? I mean, and partly
Yes,
it is scary to encounter something that we don't understand and whatnot, but a lot of it is culturally, we're programmed, right, by scary movies and all this stuff. I mean,
yeah.
oh, it's gonna get you. So, tell me, Joanne, is there anything from your experience that we need to be careful of? Any reason we should fear the spirits of dead people, stuff like that?
Sure, sure. I want to really let you know, I was frightened to death about seeing dead people. And I was so scared for a long time. I wanted to give out only good news. Here's the good news. Here's the good stuff that's going to happen for you. And I ended up seeing my grandmother at the foot of my bed, standing there with her arms down. She died at the age of 87. She looked like she was 43 years old, bright red hair, like she always had her hair when she was younger. And she just stood there with her hands folded over her lap. And all I thought was like, Nana, go away. And I threw the covers over my head. It happened like 7 or 8 times that night into the morning. And then I found out she had died. So that was the
Oh, that
gift.
was the night she died.
Yes.
Ah,
So
okay.
what a gift. But it scared me so badly. And then there were other things like when, I also do paranormal investigations and as an exorcist, that sort of thing. So, so for me, I've got a little puppy walking up here. So for me, I can't tell you, Donald, that I have not been scared out of places. They had me, I worked at Excalibur nightclub for 5 years. The TV show Sightings or Unexplained Mysteries, had flown me around to different locations. And we had done a show on Excalibur nightclub. And I am telling you, there was a room that we went into. And my first thing was, don't shut that door. Don't let that door close, whatever you do. Oh my God. It felt like the air was going to be like sucked out of that room. And when they took that room apart later, they had found a pentagram on the floor and behind the wall where people apparently were doing black magic. There was another time where I'd had a vortex in my house, and my grandkids at this time would not sleep in that room, and they kept saying, Grandma, there are monsters that keep coming out of the wall. Now, I couldn't see it at that time, but 100% for sure later on, one of my friends was also in the paranormal field. She came in and she said, oh yeah, she goes, it's right there. And once she was able to identify it, I was able to see it more clearly when I honed in on it, and it looked like one of those infinity mirrors that went back, back through space. And so that was an opening, so we had to close that. It's really funny when we have to really look at our belief systems around the paranormal. But, some people say you make this stuff up. It might come from your unconscious mind. I can pretty much tell you no. Now, in some cases, do we? Can we? Well, if that's the truth, then, and I'll tell you about the devil that I had hanging in my dining room. But one lady had seen me on one of the TV shows, and she was out from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Her name is Connie. She's just wonderful. And she said, I know that I've got hauntings, a lot of activity in my house. Would you come out here? I said, hang on a second. I looked at my secretary. I said, hey, Kathy, want to take a ride? A road ride? And she said, sure, road trip. So we made it within a day or two. And when I walked in the door, I saw these little cats walking around my feet. And I said, oh my God, I said, you've got some really nice cats. No, it was dark. It was dark in her house. So she laughed at me and she goes, I don't own cats, ma'am. I said, yes, but I just saw about 2 or 3 cats walking around my feet. And she goes, hang on a second. She had her camera set up in her house and she had videotaped. She put this videotape in the VCR player. And as we sat there and watched it, you could see these shadows of these 3 cats walking in and out of her walls. Now, it's one thing for us to think that we're imagining stuff, right? Because that's where a lot of the paranormal information will start coming in to your imaginary, your third eye, your screen, that's within the brain part here. But for her, there are so many things that we actually capture on film, on audio, EVP, electronic voice phenomenon. Um, I I I had a house fire. I think I shared that with you. So a lot of my material was caught up in the fire. But I had over 150 EVP, electronic voice phenomenon. Now I still have like a handful of them. And that's where the dead have the opportunity to communicate with you through electronic means, which is awesome. So I don't want people to think, you were saying a lot of people are afraid. They
Yeah.
are. Should they be careful of anything? I just tell them, I don't know that I would really play with the Ouija board because I believe the Ouija board is actually going into like the other astral planes, but it's not policed, right? So you
Right.
have a lot of different levels of, how can I say it? Astral planes, different places on the other side. What did God say?
Yeah.
There are many mansions, there are many rooms, and right?
Yeah.
In my mansion. And there are just so many things that are out there. I always tell people, please protect yourself, not only, with the sign of the cross, visualize a bubble of white light around yourself when you're getting ready to do something that's in the paranormal field. Um, there are plenty of dead people. Some people, just like in the movie Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg. Um, there are a lot of people that don't cross over because of unfinished business, things like this. So, and that was probably the guy that was in my bed, right? So anyway, um, so you just want to make sure you protect yourself. You're starting to do the paranormal work. Um, and I just tell people have fun with it. I mean, have fun with it. If you're getting impressions, if you're hearing things, if spirits are talking to you, write down everything you're seeing, write down everything you're experiencing, and then see if you can validate it. See if you can get
Yeah. Yeah,
confirmation.
good idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because this way
Yeah,
it's
you're
building up.
you're you're warning about Ouija boards. I've heard that before too. I
Yeah,
mean, there are um just like we have in a simplistic kind of a way, you might say there's good people and bad people in the world,
yeah,
and there's good spirits and bad spirits on the other side too. And it's a big place, like you say, like Jesus said, it's a big place on the other side. There's lots of stuff there, and
yeah,
you start kind of just using a Ouija board or something to access the lower astral realm. There's a lot of nasty folks there
yeah,
that
yeah,
do not have your best interests at heart. And
yeah,
so, yeah, keeping in mind to protect yourself, to visualize the white light surrounding you, ask specifically for the protection of Jesus or God or the Holy Spirit, or
yeah,
whatever prayers you're used to, all of these things, to make sure that you are connecting with positive entities, not negative entities, because there definitely are lots of negative entities. Just a little break from the program to mention a couple of things. Firstly, if you're enjoying this podcast, please like and subscribe. It really helps the algorithm to find more people who would enjoy these interviews. Also, if you're interested in spiritual growth, you might be interested in my series of spiritual books. As a spiritual author and a former band director, I use my little "the band director" trademark in these books because I use music as a metaphor for life, and the journey of becoming a musician as a metaphor for our spiritual journey. There are 3 books in the series. The Band Director's Lessons About Life is a book of modern-day parables inspired by events from my teaching career. When you're working with kids, little things naturally come up that we sometimes call teachable moments. Little events when you realize there's a bigger lesson happening right now than the alternate F-sharp fingering on the clarinet that I was trying to teach. I started writing some of these little stories down and turning them into modern-day parables. So, the Band Director's Lessons About Life has 50 little parables. It's a bit like a Chicken Soup for the Soul book. Each parable is about 3 pages long. Each begins with a story that happened in school, and then there's a reflection section that draws a spiritual lesson out of the events of the story. That is, it explains the spiritual metaphor. The Band Director's Lessons About Life is easy to read, makes a great gift, and expresses many universal spiritual principles in an easy-to-understand way. If you want to go deeper in your spiritual growth, I've also published a study guide to accompany the Book of Parables. It turns the Band Director's Lessons About Life into a year-long course in spiritual development. You will spend a week on each of the 50 parables. There is a deeper teaching about the meaning of each parable, reflection and discussion questions, especially helpful if you would like to use the study guide in a group setting, and a different meditation for each lesson. The 3rd book in the series is a little book titled The Band Director's Pocket Guide to Spiritual Growth. This little book explains a simple 3-step process to putting your spiritual growth into high gear. You can learn more about all of these 3 books and my other books at my website, www.cominghomespirit.com. Because, after all of us are on a spiritual journey back home to God. So that's cominghomespirit.com. You can also go directly to my Shopify page at cominghomespirit.myshopify.com, where you can purchase my books directly from me.
I can deliver ebooks and audiobooks anywhere in the world, but at the moment I can only ship paperback books within the continental United States. So if you live in other countries, you will need to purchase my books through Amazon in your own country. If you're enjoying this podcast, I really think you'll enjoy my Band Director series of books as well. Now, back to the program.
One time I said, I was doing a meditation. I said, I want to be surrounded by nothing but angels. And in my meditation, I saw all these black angels except for a white one. I was going like, whoa, wait a minute. I want to be protected by all of the highest of the white light of the Christ consciousness angels. And then all of the dark ones went away and all these white ones came in. So I was like, oh God, that was really interesting. So everybody is going to have their own journey. Everybody is going to have, I mean, gosh, I had one person say that if I gave them my leather coat, they could touch my leather coat and tell me my future. Awesome. Mine is a food product. And that's because I was drinking so much coffee. But then since then, everything else has opened up. I'm clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. I'm a trance medium. I see your dead relatives. I do channeling sessions. I do seances. Um, I'm a healer. I'm also a hypnotherapist. So it's really getting to know the territory on the other side when you go to travel. Are you astral projecting? Are you, I think when we were at the conference, we were talking about this at a lunch. There are so many things that go on in our brain or in our psyche when we're sleeping. And people just think I had a dream. And I will tell you, Donald, since the conference, I've had a couple of wild and crazy dreams. That's what I can tell you. And but they're different than, having spirit visitation with your dead relatives. It's different
Yes.
than having precognition. It's different than experiencing astral projection, past life experiences. It's so many different realms and so many different things you're capable of doing on the other side. So that's one of the things that people really want to keep in mind. I'm writing my books and letting people know these are my experiences. Now, this is what I've gone through. So, as one woman at the psychic house parties, because I do psychic house parties and I travel all over, and seances, and she goes, Jorianne, she goes, you saved my life. I mean, she really was, crying her heart out. God bless her. And I said, well, what do you mean? Tell me about it. And she goes, I thought it was crazy. And she goes, after your reading, she goes, I'm 100% sure I am not crazy. And I said, ma'am, you are not crazy. One of the titles for my books was, hey, you're not crazy. You're just psychic. And I want
Yeah.
people to know that this is so normal. This is such a natural part of being a human being, being the spiritual being that you are. Because they say we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not a human being having a spiritual experience. So I'd really like people to remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've written that in several of my books. It's a quote. Yeah.
It's a great quote.
It's yeah, and it certainly puts things into perspective, right?
Yes.
We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are, in fact, spiritual beings having a human experience. And, that's the whole point of my podcast, Jorianne, expressing and revealing your truth. It's the truth that we are spiritual beings. And when we really understand that, then it transforms our life. It transforms the way we perceive life, the way we perceive reality, and the way we live in the world and relate to other people,
Totally.
because we know we are spiritual beings and we are interacting with other spiritual beings.
Yes.
And yeah, it changes everything. And that's the biggest change that we need in the world today. And that will
Oh my
change
gosh.
everything in the world.
For sure. That's 100%. Well, I hope people take things very, like to be a good investigator and to be inquisitive And we were talking a little bit, a bit about was there anything people should be concerned about? And we talked about the Ouija board, but I somehow had encountered a negative spirit that came into my house, and it really did look like um, a devil's head, like a monkey's body, a bat's long tail, like this long tail, and bat wings. And I was going like, oh my God. And it was such a frightening thing that even if I had made it up in my mind, I still had to move out of my house for 3 days with my children.
Wow.
It was so horrible. It was so frightening. And I was like, nope, I don't know where that thing came from. I have no idea why it's in my house. It wasn't something that I saw all the time. And it was like, no. And even, and one more fun little thing here. So from that experience, I learned how to cleanse my house. I learned how to take sage. So I also like to tell people, this is what I experienced. This is what I learned from it. It's like, okay, so this happened. I'm not going to stay out of my house. Number one, that's my house. It's not your house, by the way.
Yeah.
And to this little demon spirit, whatever he was. So from that gift, I ended up learning how to either take the sage, the smudge, the holy water, the prayers, repeat, sprinkle the holy water, on the corners, on the windows, things like this. So that's what I got from that weird, frightening experience. Even when I told you guys I was so afraid of seeing the dead, oh my God, even though my Nana, my grandmother, showed against my own will, she showed me. And thank you, Nana. And but I kept running from these spirits. Thank God I did because, or thank God I stopped because I love being a medium and I love seeing your dead relatives and everything and sharing information with you guys. So I finally stopped one day and I had this vision that I was running and running and running. And I ran up a hill and down a hill and I was so out of breath. I stopped and I looked back up the mountain and I said, "What do you guys want?" And they lifted up the 6 winning lottery numbers. Ah, it's like what I got was I never stopped to ask, what do you want? I have learned from that point to stop, ask, talk to the dead, hi, I can
Yeah.
see you, is there anything you need from me? Um,
So, yeah, well, I got to ask. Everybody's now you left that story unfinished. Did you go out and buy a lottery ticket with those 6 numbers?
they didn't show me the numbers. But I did have a
Oh,
client in her dream that her father, they showed me that as an example.
okay.
So this one woman came to me and she said, "Jorianne," she goes, "I keep dreaming of my dad." And I said, "Okay." She goes, "I keep running up to him." And then he turns around and and in my dream yelled, 1, 2, 3. But actually he was yelling actual numbers at her. And she
Okay.
ran and ran and ran. She goes, "Daddy, daddy, daddy." And he stopped, turned around and said, 1, 2, 3. And she did it like 3 or 4 times. She goes, "What do you think that meant?" And I said, "Ma'am, I'm telling you, I hope to God you played those numbers." And she goes, "I did." I said, "And how much did you win?" She goes, "Thousands and thousands of dollars." So
Now, that's pretty unusual, right? Because typically spirits, you know, don't come to us to pass along information to bring us easy money and stuff like that,
I can't say that,
right?
Donald. I don't know that I can
Oh,
say that. I don't know that I can agree with that. Okay.
okay.
What I
Right.
can tell you is I've seen from my own personal experiences, I've had spirits give me information where I literally, like no joke, have been shopping and my spirits are saying, "Pick that up." And I'm like, "No." And they're like these beautiful pillows. And I'm like, I don't need that. It's not my color scheme. And they're like, "Jorianne, pick that up." And I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Pick it up." And I'm like, "Okay." So I pick up the pillows And then 2 weeks later, I'm in another store and I'm seeing these other color pillows. And they're like, hey, pick those up. And I'm like, no. And they're like, Jorianne, pick those pillows up. And I'm like, fine. So then 2 weeks later, I'm in this big box store and I find the most elegant bedspread set in which those extra pillows were the complimentary pillows that belong to that set. So I have had, and can you take another story, Donald? Can you take
Oh,
another
yeah.
story?
Oh, yeah. We love stories. Go ahead. Let's hear the
Just so,
stories.
well, again, this is part of my book, you guys, just to let you guys know. I've got such, I really teach people, please, 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 we're born with our spirit guides, we're born with our angels, and they're here to protect us. And we have many different lessons. So we have our spirit guides and angels that are interchange with you. When you learned a certain lesson, they've done their job. Somebody else will come in for a different lesson. So apparently I've got shopper spirit guides, and which I believe to
You
really
have
be true.
what?
Shopper. They
A shop?
help me shop. They help me shop.
Oh, my goodness.
So
Well, yeah. I'm pretty sure that as a man, I don't have any shopper spirit guides. They would be bored to death. I don't shop.
well, I love the shirt
I
you're
rushed
wearing
in.
today. So that
No, oh
must
yeah,
have been
well, you know what? My dear sister, who's also a retired band director like me, she gave me this for Christmas, this musical themed shirt,
it's
this
a
particular one.
gorgeous shirt.
So
Gorgeous
yeah,
shirt.
I rush into the store, get the food I need, or get the tools I need at the hardware store, whatever, and beat it out of there. I hate stores. I hate
Oh
shopping.
wow. Well, let me tell you, I actually had a trip planned with my husband, my kids, and our two friends, and we did not have a tent, but we were campers. But my sister-in-law and brother had a tent. And my sister-in-law said, sure, you can use it for this coming weekend. And this weekend came, and I was like, awesome. We had everything set up. I had $45 in my pocket, and I was on the way to Aldi's to get some food. That's one of the food stores out here in our area, our region. And I called up my sister-in-law, and she was like, she goes, oh no. She goes, your brother, my brother, gave the tent to her brother, John, for the weekend. And I was like, oh no, there goes our trip. And again, I had $45 with me. That was it. So I called up my girlfriend. She goes, I don't care. We're going on the trip anyway. And I said, of course. I called my husband and he goes, well, that's just the way it goes. And so I was very frustrated. And suddenly I'm driving down toward Aldi's and I find myself pulling into a garage sale. Now, I'm sitting here going around the entire garage sale, and I'm like, gosh, what am I doing here? I mean, I'm like so mad right now. And I'm looking around, and I say, fine, there's a Connect 4 game. All right, fine. I love to play that with my kids. It was $2.50. And I walked out. Then I ended up it's like, come on. I was really ticked off. And I said, come on, guys, let's just get back in the car and let's go to the store. And I swear to God, and this is not a joke, and I have to use this in many of my stories, Jesus, take the wheel. So I end up finding myself in a yard sale. I had literally turned into an alley, and now I'm at a yard sale. And you have to know, it was almost like it went unconscious. And here I am pulled over, and I'm going like, what the heck am I doing here? And I'm sure I didn't go unconscious, but I wasn't the one at the wheel. I'm telling you. So I'm getting out. I'm like, cause I love yard sales. I love the garage sales, that sort of thing. So I get out of the car. I walk around the whole yard and I'm like, nice, 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 nice. No, 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 no. I go to get back in the car and the spirits say, look again. I get up. I go around the whole thing, go around, go around, go around. And I'm right at the table where the lady is taking money. And I swear to God, look, I don't care what you guys think, how your spirit guides might talk to you. Somebody said my spirits would never talk to me that way. Well, mine did. They said, look up, dummy. And I looked up and I was like, of course, anything like that's going to catch your eye. I looked up and here was this beautiful tent that was set up behind this lady. And I said, how much do you want for that tent? And she goes, $45. And I said, how about $42.50? And she goes, nope, the price is flat. I said, here's $42.50. I'm putting in your hand. That's my tent. I'm going to go home and get $2.50. So that is how my spirit guides, my angels, they lead me to the stores. They will lead us to different places. I mean, I've had dead people save me from accidents. So when we're sitting here, and I mean, my whole world is, this is what I live, I breathe. I wake up, I find toilet seats up that shouldn't be up. Come on. Yeah, it's like,
What lady does that, right?
what lady does that? What lady does that? I mean, nothing worse than sitting on a cold, ice cold bowl going like, that never should have happened. How did that happen? So I was actually driving down northbound in Chicago, and it was like 50, I think it was like 53rd and Pulaski. And there was a jewel store there that I used to work at. And then there was this beautiful restaurant across the street. I hope I can describe this accurately. So you have to let me know if this makes sense to you. You know how you've got 2 lanes going northbound and 2 lanes going southbound, right? And then you've got the parking lane. Well, in the parking lane, and this is rush hour traffic, they don't let cars park there. But right in front of the restaurant, you could park. And there was a stoplight there. So I was the first car at the stoplight, and the light changed. I went to accelerate, and suddenly a hand shoved me back like this. And because I was reasonably just new in the field, I got mad and I stopped. I kept my foot on the brake, and I'm going like, look, I know you can talk to me. I know I'm working with you guys and I'm trying to see you, but I don't think you're allowed to touch my body. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Quit pushing me around, man.
yes,
You're supposed to be non-physical.
it's like, what's up with that? And so as I'm sitting here, thank you, Jesus, Donald. That's what I can tell you. Thank you, Jesus. I'm not sure who it was. I don't know if it was my father. I don't know if it was my spirit guides and angels. I don't know who shoved me back that made me mad to pause just long enough for this car that was timing the light and through that parking lane sped and cut in front of me. Had I accelerated, rush hour traffic, it was a full, complete, busy intersection. It would have been a massive accident. Massive, I assure you. They have saved me numerous times. And by the way, I'm a good driver.
Oh, I believe you.
Just saying. So there are so many things that, people, they call it coincidence. Is it a coincidence? Is it synchronicity? Is it the hand of God? There are so many things that people, when they look at this, some people have these experiences and then they shut them down because they're very afraid. And, I always say that, if God brings you something, he's bringing it to you and he's going to help you, bring you through it, bring you to it.
Right.
It's not done to you, but it's done for you. So, so many of these wonderful, wonderful experiences I've had, just a lifetime full of them. And I consider myself very, very blessed. And I do all of my work as a spiritual gift, I guess, using my spiritual gifts to help people move through their challenges, their life's experiences, and hopefully enlighten, educate, and inspire, people in the spiritual realms. That's where I come from for my work. Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And, I see this as, God provides us opportunities in the physical world, but God also provides us opportunities in information through the spiritual or the psychic world.
Yes.
And, it would be, if we reject that, it's the same as rejecting somebody gives you a birthday present or something. You say, no, I don't want that. I don't want a gift from you.
Yeah.
It's why would you reject a gift? Accept the gift. God brings us these gifts, and God sends us things through other people, right? And God is sending gifts through you to all kinds of people to help them so that they can also get through the difficult times and difficult things in your life. And I know that various over the course of the last 10 years or so that I've been offered a lot of help through people such as yourself who have given me guidance when I needed guidance. We always need guidance.
Yeah. Well, again, it goes back to that one saying, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. Now, that's what I've heard. But then I add, and the only antidote is a lot of knowledge. Explore, investigate, educate yourself, learn. Yeah. Don't take things at, somebody else's, face value. That's their experience or their fear from their religious training or whatever it is. There's a big difference between religion and spirituality. We have a lot of rules and regulations and things like this. But what is Holy Spirit bringing down to you? What are your angels helping you with? What are your spirit guides helping you with? That sort of thing. Do you contact the universe through meditation? There's not a single religion that's wrong, but there's one destination, so many different paths. And how are you in touch with our universal creator, or however you perceive, universal consciousness? So, so many
We're absolutely on the same page, Jorianne.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. Jorianne, the Coffee Psychic. And your website is?
Yes, it's being redone. It's called coffeepsychic.com. Or people could contact me at 219-940-9292. Or they could call me at my cell phone, and that's 708-805-1128. And I can take text messages there.
Okay, super. Well, we can certainly put, if you'd like, we can certainly put your phone numbers in the show notes, and we'll put your website in the show notes. That's somewhat easier to remember for those who might just be listening on audio, on Apple Podcasts or something like that. So coffeepsychic.com.
Yes, sir.
And that's fantastic. Jorianne, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a joy. All of our conversations have been a joy to me, including this one. And I hope we'll perhaps do it again sometime.
I'd love to. Thanks, Donald.
All right. God bless you, Jorianne.
God bless you.
Bye for now.
God bless you all.